If your referrals have dried up, word of mouth isn't working for you, and you're wondering where your next client is coming from, this is for you. And today I'm answering the question, how do I get more clients when those referrals stop coming in? I'm going to talk about two ways to think about this, because the fact is you're going to already have an existing network and you don't always want to suddenly get thousands of leads. So I'm going to walk you through that, and I'm excited to give you another perspective on what your first next step is when you want more stability and be able to project revenue in your business. Welcome to the Sales by You podcast, where I talk about all things sales, mindset, LinkedIn, and how to build a lead to client sales process that works for you. I'm your host, Celina Guerrero, sales and LinkedIn coach. I help consultants and service providers attract high quality leads that become their best clients. If you're responsible for signing clients in your business and are ready to feel more confident and knowledgeable so you can reach your biggest revenue goals, then this is the show for you. I want to start by describing a conversation I was having with a prospective client the other day. We get on the call and she explains that she's been in business for 2 decades. And she said, everyone is always impressed with the type of clients I've worked with. I have a reputation for doing good work. And she basically said, people always tell me I'm great to work with. And I think this is a really common reality for consultants. You're doing good work, you're working really hard, you've got referrals, you've been in business for a while, and there's business coming in, but it just feels a little discombobulated. It feels a little uneven. It feels a little unstable. And you're thinking, okay, I feel like something has to change. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. You're getting the clients and you're getting the revenue, but it just doesn't feel like enjoyable anymore. Like, I think when we go into consulting, we're tapping into our existing network or clients. We're so excited and we just keep going. And then there's a moment when things just feel like, okay, the joy of working really hard at 10 o'clock at night is gone and I'm looking for more stability. Okay, so over the last few years, her inquiries had slowed down and a lot of her industry had changed, and she was confused and concerned. And this sort of slowdown had happened long enough that she wanted to address it. And again, this is really common. So if this has happened to you, you are not alone. I'm telling you a story that is a story that many people have told me. And it's honestly just part of the journey. Being an entrepreneur means that we grow and then we pivot. And I don't mean reconstruct your entire business. I'm just saying there's some things that we can adjust. So as we were talking about how she could get more clients, I presented this idea that there's really two groups to focus on. And that is people that you already know and people that don't know yet. So I love the visual of you in the middle of the circle, and then outside that circle is your existing network. And those are the people that are sending referrals. Those are people that know about you. And then there's this other circle around that, and those are people that just don't know you exist yet. And so let's talk about the first group. So the first group are people that, in this case, she already knew. She had spent 2 decades in this industry, right? She knew a lot of people. And like I said, the industry had changed a bit, but here are some things that happen when that network no longer produces opportunity. Number one, people leave the industry. This happens all the time. People change industries, people change careers. They decide they don't want to deal with that anymore, and they go become a consultant, they become a teacher, they stop working, right? A lot of that happens. Number two, your industry shrinks. This is really common. I've been part of industries that are shrinking. It's very painful and it can be really disruptive. Number three, COVID, or for example, AI completely disrupts your industry. This can really impact the consistency with which you're getting opportunities. And number four, what you offer isn't no longer relevant. I can speak to that certainly. I think for many years, I was helping a lot of people during COVID times to get up and running on LinkedIn and to learn about sales. And then a lot of people went back to employment. A lot of people left their businesses and was no longer a main source of opportunity for me. Okay. This happens all the time. We have to dig into our strengths, but sometimes we have some to shift. All right. So assuming that some of all of these things have happened to you, you still have opportunity to stop waiting around for someone to call and start conversations instead. Okay. And basically tapping into your existing network, this is really the first step. And in the case of this prospective client, this is definitely her first step, right? Because in other words, she had this network, but she wasn't activating. She wasn't initiating, right? And so when you do that, number one, you're going to find out who's left your industry. So you know why they're not calling you or referring you anymore. You don't worry thinking, oh my gosh, they don't like me anymore. And number two, you hear what your network is experiencing. You might learn about changes in funding. You might hear about changing in regulations. You might hear about changing priorities, right? Number three, you can reconnect with people you care about. Hello, a relationship 101, and remind them who you are and the work that you do. And then you'll just remind them, they can then reintroduce you to people that they know. We are thinking about ourselves all the time. And so we assume everyone else is thinking about us. That's called the spotlight effect. It's like the same thing of like when you go to a party and you feel like, oh my gosh, everybody sees that you're, I don't know, that you have a stain on your shirt and nobody's really caring. We're so self-absorbed as individuals. So most of the time when you're tapping into that first group of people, the existing network, as I said, you're initiating, you're starting conversation, and you're seeing what's there rather than just sitting and waiting, which is, a lot of businesses can really survive for a long time with that. Okay. Now, some of the problems that you might have with engaging in your existing networks is you can appear needy. You can appear needy if you approach this wrong. You can't just keep asking people for referrals or, hey, let's do coffee when everybody's doing coffee. It's like that networking event where everyone's going to get referrals and nobody has work and nobody refers and it's really nonsense. So I know that there has to be a real confident, easy going plan to re-tap into that network, especially there are people who know you, but you're like, what do I say? Okay. So that could be something that could go wrong, but there's definitely some strategies you can address it. And most of the time, people are happy to hear from you. And number two, if you only rely on this group, you're going to limit your opportunities. So that's why we get to group two. In this case, she could activate her existing network and she might just have a ton of work. But if not, and as a general rule, you want to activate your existing network, but you also want to continue to get visible with new audiences, people that don't know you yet. When you're creating a business development and sales strategy for your consulting business, you want to tap into both your existing network and continually getting in front of new people. Okay. So again, let's go to second group. Those are people that don't know you yet. And there's various ways to do that. It can be through outreach on LinkedIn. It can be asking for introductions. It can be guest podcasting, guest speaking. It can be media. It could be advertising for some, right? It could be sponsorships and so on. But that is an important part of your portfolio, business development portfolio, is not only just that existing network, but expanding it. So here's some questions for you, listener, so that you can figure out what your priorities are. So have you already tapped out your existing network? If you're already super engaged and if everybody knows you and you're doing that effectively, then you want to focus on the second group, right? What I will tell you is that 95% of the time, most people are not doing that. Even when they come to me and they say, okay, I want to get more clients, I want to get more leads, there's like a 98% chance there's some work still to be done with their existing network, especially using LinkedIn as a business development tool. A lot of times, in real simple terms, people haven't even connected on LinkedIn with their existing clients. So they have no way of even like staying in touch, and they don't have a plan for signing up past clients again. They haven't gotten clear about maybe who the network is of the past clients to be able to get referrals or introductions. So 98% of the time, you're still going to have work to do with your existing network, but that's the question that you need to ask. All right. These two halves make a whole, your existing network and the external network. And when you have the whole, it really means you have more opportunity. And here's what's really important. Okay. When you're actually tapping into your existing network and getting visible with new networks, you're going to have more opportunity, which means the likelihood that you are going to be able to be more selective and take projects and clients that you love working with is higher, right? Yes, quantity isn't always the answer. It needs to be quality opportunities. But if you have 100 people coming to you saying, I want to work with you, and you can only take 5 clients, you get to choose. You've essentially created demand. All right. But if you're only relying on one, you're missing out. Okay. And I will just say a lot of times when those referrals come in, which are great, of course, a lot of times if we're not getting enough clients, we can end up having to take clients that are excited to work with us, but maybe aren't quite a right fit. They're excited to work with us because they were introduced to us and somebody says, oh yeah, Celina's great. You should definitely work with it. But at the same time, maybe it's not exactly the right fit. And that's where the vicious cycle starts, where you're spending way more time working with clients because it's not the right fit and you have to create new frameworks and you have to do a lot more research. And number two, sometimes you just take the client and you're undercharging essentially just to sign it because they're eager to work with you through a referral. So that creates its own problem. Okay. So if you're sitting there listening to this and you're thinking, look, I already am working with my network and nothing's coming, chances are you really still have opportunity and you just don't know where to look and how to execute on that. So if that's something you want to work on, definitely reach out. I do essentially sales audits and we can figure out where you're missing opportunity and where you might lose opportunity that's sitting there and tap into that. And then secondarily, where your opportunities might be for growth. Okay, so there's really 2 main takeaways from what I'm trying to impart here. Number 1, you want to have business development plan that includes both tapping and activating and starting and initiating conversations with your existing network. And you also want to be able to effectively get visible with new audiences, right? People that know you and people that don't know you yet. When you put those 2 halves together, it's whole and it is more comprehensive. It gives you more opportunity and you'll have more discernment on which clients you're going to take. Okay. So that's the first thing. You're going to need both. The second thing is most of the time, people try to do too much. They say, I need 1,000 leads. They want to go hire a salesperson. They want to go hire company outreach. They want to run ads. They want to do all of these things that would give them way too many leads. A lot of times it's already there. And I will say it needs to be small and it needs to be simple because that's truly the way to create more demand for your business and your services, but you need to have both components. All right. So if that was helpful, I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway was. You can find me on LinkedIn, Celina Guerrero, and you can DM me. You can just send me a message. You don't even need to be connected, but if you want to send me an invitation to connect, I would love to accept it. You could just say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you are looking to tap into your existing network and reach new audiences so that you can have greater sustainability in your business, be sure to send me a DM, email me, reach out, and we can talk. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sales by You podcast. If you heard something in this episode that made you think someone you know would really find that helpful, send them a link to this podcast episode. If you want to learn another aspect of improving your sales, subscribe to this podcast so you can catch the next episode of Sales by You. Lastly, thank you for giving this podcast a review. What you think matters. See you next time.